Once upon a time, there was a couple named Bright and Sandra. After they got married, they were not fortunate to give birth in time. It took them 5 years of crying and praying before they were able to give birth to their daughter, Naomi. After they gave birth to Naomi, they couldn't stop thanking God for giving them Naomi when all their hopes were lost. One beautiful evening, after they had eaten dinner that night and retired to bed, Naomi was lying down in between the couple. Mr. Bright just kept staring at his little daughter and smiling.
"Tell me the reason behind this smile tonight,"
Sandra asked her husband, also smiling with him.
Who would have ever thought that we would have been a parent someday? I hope you remember all we went through,
Mr. Bright asked Sandra.
"Can I ever forget? I was called a barren woman. We were mocked for 5 good years. I got different advice from different friends. Old women called me aside and tried to give me various solutions. Doctors had different things to say each time we went to them. People always pointed to me as I walked past. Even some women in the church used to mock me. I was referred to as the fair barren. I almost committed suicide after a fellow woman told me to my face that I was a man and that was why I couldn't give my husband children."
Sandra said all this and tears rolled down her cheeks.
It's okay. Those are in the past now. God has given us Naomi and blessed us, our bundle of joy,
Mr. Bright said with a smile.
"Her 7th birthday is coming next week. Our daughter will be 7 years old,"
Sandra said with a smile. They both just kept staring at Naomi, who was sleeping peacefully. Then Mr. Bright stretched his hand and turned off the light and bid his wife good night. The next day, Mr. Bright was so tangled at work that he forgot it was time to bring Naomi back from school. It was the weekend, and Mr. Bright was the one who took Naomi back during the weekends. It was already 40 minutes after dismissal, but Mr. Bright was not yet back with Naomi. Sandra decided to wait a bit longer, thinking it was traffic. After a few more minutes, she became worried and called her husband on the phone. Mr. Bright was shocked that almost an hour had flown by after Naomi's school dismissal time. He pleaded with his wife to quickly go get her because he was still very busy. Sandra left what she was doing immediately and started heading towards Naomi's school. She was already 55 minutes late, and it took another 15 minutes to get to Naomi's school. Sandra entered a bus, and just after a 5 minutes drive, she got stuck in traffic. The traffic was so bad that Sandra decided it was best she calms down and searched for a bike that would be faster, because the bike riders always have a way of maneuvering the traffic. After walking for a while in haste, Sandra stopped the bike. She tried hopping on the bike, and then she remembered she had forgotten her purse inside the bus she had entered earlier. Sandra didn't know if she was to continue to the school or go back to get her purse. She asked the bike man to go while she goes to take her phone because her phone was inside the purse. Sandra started walking back in quick steps, looking for the bus she had entered earlier. Meanwhile, back at the school, Naomi sat outside with some of her classmates who were waiting for their parents to come and take them home. Some who had older siblings went home with them. As parents came taking their kids in their numbers, Naomi only sat, wondering if her father had forgotten her.
"Naomi, your father is not coming today?"
One of her classmates asked her as she left with her mother. Naomi was already tired of waiting. She was so hungry. She didn't eat the whole day because she didn't like the food her mother had prepared and put into her lunchbox. Naomi stood up and decided to go home alone. She left the school with her bag and lunchbox. She started walking home all alone while carrying her lunchbox. After a few minutes' walk, Naomi's lunchbox fell from her hand and rolled into the main road. She tried going to pick it up. Someone tried calling out to Naomi because of the speeding car coming towards her in a haste. The man driving the car quickly stepped on his brakes, but it was already too late. He had knocked Naomi down. The man came down immediately and saw Naomi lying down almost lifeless and bleeding. Before people would come any closer, the man carried Naomi into his car. He reversed with her in his car and drove off in haste. As Sandra walked back in quick steps to where she had alighted from the bus earlier, she noticed some bus drivers were turning around to follow another route because of the traffic ahead. She increased her pace, trying to find the bus she had come down from earlier, but she couldn't seem to identify the bus. It looked like the bus had turned around with the others. Sandra carried her hand on her head in confusion. She had just lost her purse containing her phone. She wanted to call her husband, but she couldn't. She couldn't pay for a bike either because she had no money on her. She decided to trek down to the school and then call her husband with one of the teacher's phones when she got to the school. After so many minutes of walking under the scorching sun, Sandra arrived in front of the school gate. She was sweating profusely like someone who had engaged in a marathon race. The environment was very calm, unlike the usual time when there were kids around the vicinity. Sandra's only hope was that her daughter was inside the gate, seeing that there was no padlock on it. As she reached out to open the gate, she saw the headmistress coming out of the gate holding a padlock to close the gates. "Good afternoon, ma," Sandra greeted, trying to force a smile. "Good afternoon, my dear. Why are you sweating so much?" the headmistress asked, looking at Sandra. "I'm sorry. I'm so late. It seems everyone had left already," Sandra asked, looking around. "Yes, it's already 4 p.m. and everyone has left. Today is Friday and we close so early," the headmistress answered. "What about my daughter?" Sandra asked, fixing her gaze on the headmistress as she locked up the gate. "Your daughter? No one is here. Why not call your husband and know if he has her? He comes to pick her on Fridays," the headmistress answered. "I know my husband too well, and he can't ask me to come to take my daughter from school if he has already done that," Sandra said, already having mixed feelings. "Why not call him?" the headmistress suggested. "That's the problem. I can't. I was in a hurry and I forgot my purse with my phone inside the bus I'd entered earlier when there was traffic. My phone and the little money I had on me is all gone. I just wanted to come and pick up my daughter first before talking about my phone." "Then how did you pay the bus driver when you came down?" "I had money in my hand already and I just..." "Oh, ma, my phone is not my problem. Where is my daughter? Where is Naomi?" Sandra asked, already having a bad feeling. "Take my phone and call your husband. Let's see if he took her," the headmistress said, dipping her hand into her bag and bringing out her phone. She gave it to Sandra, who collected it and dialed Bright's number immediately. Mr. Bright picked up the call immediately and Sandra asked him if he came and took their daughter from school. Mr. Bright told her he had been calling her and she was not picking up her calls. He wanted to know if they were back home. He couldn't understand what he was hearing over the phone, that his princess was missing. He told Sandra that he was coming over immediately. Mr. Bright hung up the call and Sandra could feel the tears building up in her eyes. "Where is my daughter?" Sandra asked the headmistress in a teary voice. The headmistress was dumbfounded. She had no answer to the questions Sandra just asked her. She calmed Sandra down and she called the teacher in charge of Naomi's class. She asked the teacher to come back to school as there was a case of a missing pupil. Sandra didn't know where she would start from to look for her only daughter. Tears just kept rolling down her cheeks as she waited for the teacher in charge of Naomi's class. She was restless and just kept looking around, hoping to lay her eyes on Naomi. It took a few minutes and the teacher came back to the school. She was asked who had taken Naomi. The teacher said Naomi was sitting with her best friend Anita outside waiting for her father. She saw Anita's mother coming to take Anita. After a while, she didn't see Naomi anymore. She thought her father had taken her. Sandra asked the teacher to call Anita's mother on the phone and find out if Naomi had followed her home. The teacher was scrolling down her contact list, looking for Anita's mother's number, when Mr. Bright came down from the bike and walked towards the rest in a quick pace. A call came into the headmistress's phone. She picked it up. "Hello, madam. I think one of your students met with an accident a few minutes ago," the voice said over the phone. The headmistress shifted a bit to where she won't be heard. She asked what the pupil looked like. The description fitted that of Naomi.